large tornado.
Tonight, heartbreak in the heartland 72 hours after devastating tornadoes ripped through 6 states. The search for survivors continues. We have one couple's story, how a phone call saved their lives. They'll join us in just a few minutes. Plus, the storm chaser who tracked this monster tornado through several states. A 250-mile storm. Has he ever heard of anything like that? He has some amazing stories to tell as well. Great to have you with us as we start another week. Live from our Chicago studios, the Donlon Report starts right now. Hello, like you, we are seeing the images from the tornado's path and can't believe it either. That is the pulse of America tonight. Unimaginable damage, homes, blocks, entire towns leveled. As usual, when Americans face tragedies like this, from it come stories of survival, courage, and resilience.
I grabbed my pillow and my blanket when the electricity went off, and I come around here underneath the stairwell. Here's my pillow and blanket. And I crouched down back there behind the safe and the stairs and put the blanket and pillow over my head and prayed. And when the noise stopped, I just kind of sat there for a second because I was in shock. I didn't know what to do.
Amanda Dye's house in Campbellsville, Kentucky is gone, except for what she showed us there. She said she was lucky and has seen firsthand now the horror of this storm, but also the humanity in its wake.
This community is absolutely amazing. The number of people that have come out to ask if we needed help, the people on social media, the messages, the phone calls, I mean, it has just been unreal how quickly everybody has come to us and offered their help and their prayers.
We are finding these stories throughout the heartland tonight, and we will bring you some of those here, like the storm chaser who caught the massive twister on video. Take a look at the size of that funnel cloud. He then jumped into action to try to save someone injured in the storm. The story certainly has impacted all of us, not just the images, but the emotions as well.
Tell my 4-year-old daughter that her best friend wasn't coming home.
Everything was going good, and then the sirens went off, and we barely had time to get everybody back to the hallways before it hit. I mean, there was no time at all.
I heard it go through. It was awful. I've never been through anything like that in my life.
All we do is just clean it up and start again, you know, and that's what we're going to do. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know what else to do, you know.
A tree fell on the house, and then the water tower fell.
Now, even the governor of Kentucky got choked up today talking about the age range of the victims.
18 are still unidentified. Of the ones that we know, the age range is 5 months to 86 years, and 6 are younger than 18.
Certainly a difficult news conference with the governor there today. And in a minute, we're going to be talking with a couple. They got a phone call from family members warning them not to go home, and they are alive tonight because they listened. They'll join us in just a bit. But first, Rudabeh Shahbazi, who was on the ground for us in Mayfield. Rudabeh, I know you covered our our coverage of this story all weekend long. I'm curious what it's like for you to be now on the ground and seeing this damage firsthand.
Well, Joe, you see the images on the screen, and they are unbelievable. But when you set foot here, it drives home that these are people's lives, their livelihoods, their memories, their entire town, their communities, their families. And when you talk to people who have actually lost someone, imagine preparing for Christmas and having family in town, and 2 days later, your loved one is gone. And this is what's left of businesses and livelihoods. It's getting a little dark, so it's a little dangerous to walk around here. But I just want to give you a a little bit of a sense. This is a car dealership, we just found out. We couldn't even recognize what it was. We knew it was some sort of business, but had no idea what. So look at all these overturned cars, dozens of them. It's just unbelievable. It doesn't even look like, I can't even compare it to a movie. The destruction and the level of destruction. And it's like this block after block after block after block. This is not just one debris pile that we found here. And you can see all kinds of items, all kinds of belongings that used to be someone's livelihood. And it's really hard to put in perspective the scope of it. As far as I can see, is just more debris piles like this, Joe.
Have any of the folks there in Mayfield been able to come back and sort of survey the damage and what's left of what the storm left behind?
Yeah, so there are people in shelters. The parks have been opened and a lot of churches are serving as shelters. And we did hear from people over the weekend. We heard from people who survived by crouching on top of each other in a tiny bathtub. We heard all kinds of stories of survival and then also stories of heroism. We talked to one family today who lost their father, and he was a jailer who was actually supervising inmates who were working at that candle factory, which is now known as Ground Zero here in Mayfield, where there are still 8 people missing. He was working as a jailer and he threw himself on top of the inmates. He was captured in a social media video. That's how his kids knew what happened to him, and he lost his life. So stories like that all over, and people coming back to what's left of their homes, but you can't even recognize anything. You can't even tell if something is a home or a business. Yeah, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, Rudabeh, to look at these pictures that we're seeing coming out of Mayfield especially and not just shake your head. I can't believe the damage that we're seeing. Rudabeh, thank you very much for the update tonight. That's going to start us off from Kentucky, and we're going to move now to an incredible story from 2 of the survivors whose home was destroyed in the path of that tornado in Mayfield, Kentucky as well. Their residents, Stephanie and Robert Matheny, they were at a Christmas party when their family warned them not to come home because they knew it wasn't safe with this storm. Without that warning, they may not be here to tell their story. We'll get there in just a second, but I know that you guys were finally able to get back and see your house. So I want to ask you about that first and give us an idea of what that moment was like when you pulled into the neighborhood and what you saw.
Heart-wrenching, very. Driving down the road before my house and seeing some houses skipped and some houses completely gone. It was like, oh my gosh, my home is gone. And my home is gone, if you say so. Like, technically it's gone. There's no roof. The walls are fallen. But I mean, there's people where it's just dirt where a home was. And that's my home right there. That brown house is my home. And my husband, he works nights, and he took the day off to go to a Christmas party for my work. And if I did not go to that Christmas party, I would not be here, because my living room is on my car, and that's where I would have been, because I don't have cable. I do the Netflix and the streaming and stuff. So I wouldn't have gotten that warning. The only warning we had was at 5:30 at night when I left Mayfield to go to my Christmas party. There was no warning. On the phones, the radars showed only rain. So I told them, I'm going to leave, the storm's coming, because we were at the party, and the girl who drove us, her family called them and said, hey, it's coming to Mayfield. It's 25 minutes away. And we're like, we got to go. I have 4 fur babies, and I only was able to find 3 of them.
Oh, I am so sorry. And I know you had more heartache as well. Your good friends were nearby, and they were seriously injured. What happened to them?
They live about 7 or 8 houses from us, and they're on the curve right before us. And when we were walking, I was mad running towards that road, and there was a tree down, and we were standing there waiting, and all of a sudden you hear this man say, any available people, we need you now. And my husband turned around and he ran, and when he realized where he was running, that was his friend's home, and the home was gone. I mean, barely a foundation was there, and they were found behind their home. The husband and wife were, and my husband stayed with him, and he was praying, and I didn't know. I thought he was going through the debris, and I was calling him, are you okay? And he came to me and he said, it's him. And They're such good people. His family, they are amazing people, such sweethearts. And
They survived though, didn't they, Stephanie?
Yes, he did. He's out of the hospital. His wife, however, is not. He was pregnant.
She was pregnant?
She was pregnant. They were able to do a C-section on her, and she was 21 weeks. And the baby's right now stable, but we don't know much on the wife.
Right. Robert, I can see the pain in your eyes. I don't know if you'd like to address it, but the question I have for you, or you as well, Stephanie, is what you do now. Where do you go from here?
Take one day at a time, and thank everybody who has come to us and to others. I may have lost my home, but people have lost so much more worse than I have. I have my parents. Mm-hmm. You know, he has his family still. There's so many that don't, you know, and I have so many people I don't even know, message me on Facebook, hey, I'm so sorry, you know, and we get asked that question, what do you need? And honestly, you are still in shock. You don't know what you need. You know, there's no answer really. Right. It's like, all I can say is just pray for Mayfield, pray for us, because we need it bad.
All right. Well, that is about as real as it gets. Stephanie and Robert Matheny, we're glad you're okay. We know you have a long road ahead of you, but also know that the entire country is thinking of you, and I know sending help your way. So hang in there. We appreciate the time, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
For more now on the damage caused by these tornadoes, I want to turn to a storm chaser who followed the storm from Arkansas to Missouri. It's Brandon Copic. And Brandon, we keep hearing this talk of how unusual this was in a lot of ways. Put this into perspective from your standpoint. You've chased a lot of storms, I'm sure. Have you ever seen anything like this?
First and foremost, I do want to say my thoughts and prayers are with Stephanie and her husband. It was very difficult to hear. Yeah. I personally have not seen anything like this. I've chased catastrophic hurricanes. I've chased fairly significant tornadoes. This damage to this extent was beyond belief, and there's no other way to say it. Just unbelievable.
You were actually able to help someone who was injured. Brandon, tell us a little bit about that, where it happened and what was going on.
Well, it was, sorry, it's a little difficult to discuss now. I actually found out that the guy I helped passed away. Oh. So I was following the storm from the south on I-55. I was approaching the tornado as it crossed Interstate 55. I came across two trucks that were overturned. I checked on those drivers. They were okay. No cuts, no bruises, anything like that. Then I proceeded further north where the main circulation of the tornado had crossed. There were two more trucks that had been flipped. One guy just had a decent cut on his arm, and I helped him. Then another guy had a lot of cuts and bruises, and more than likely a concussion as well. After first aid was rendered to them and they were sent where they needed to get help, I was standing in front of my vehicle on the interstate, blocking the road from where the trucks had flipped, and I was discussing with a local Hayti, Missouri police officer the damage and the experience, and he had mentioned to me that there was some farm equipment in the field. They had pretty much wrapped up search and rescue in the area I was in, and him and I got inquisitive with it. We went out in the field with our flashlights and ended up finding a semi-truck that was thrown over 200 yards into the field. We got there and the driver was critically injured. He was still alive. We did everything we could to keep him conscious and keep him awake. I could literally feel him slipping, losing his life. And we did everything we could to keep him conscious and alive, everything we possibly could. We had the EMS end up showing up, good 15, 20 minutes later. Everybody was just so swarmed. We got him into the ambulance and got him down the road to the hospital. And unfortunately, I did hear earlier this afternoon that he did not make it.
Not for a lack of trying, though. That's for sure, Brandon. In your time, did you continue to follow the storm after this?
Afterwards, I was still helping out with the local officials. I was never able to make it any further than where I was in the Missouri boot heel. Honestly, I was overcome with emotion at the time. I couldn't fathom. I've seen this kind of damage and this destruction. I've seen people who haven't made it. And the thought and the image of the guy who lost his life was sticking with me. I honestly emotionally broke down, called my fiance, had to talk to her. And she just kept reminding that you've got to keep doing what you can to help people out there because they need it.
That's what I was going to ask you. Will you continue to chase storms, Brandon, after seeing this?
110%. I am the executive director of a nonprofit, 501c3 organization called the Chaser Weather Storm Response Team. Honestly, it's been just me. I've got a great team that surrounds me, but we haven't been able to establish any funding. Our whole organization's point is rapid storm response, which is what I do. With my experience chasing, I'm able to get to damaged areas for the majority of the time within 90 seconds of a tornado clearing. It's difficult thinking about what happened, and it breaks my heart that the man lost his life, and I did everything, gave him the best chance that I could for him to stay with us, but that's going to be my motivation from now on. I do it for my family because I want them to, be okay. And I want to make sure this guy and his memory continues on, so I will keep pushing. That way I do continue to help people down the line.
It'll stick with you forever, I'm sure, Brandon. So thank you for what you did. Thank you for joining us tonight to tell the story of just how powerful this storm was. We appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Much more from the tornado zone at the bottom of the hour. More stories of heroism and Americans stepping up to help each other. Coming up next, though, two blue state governors with very different approaches to mask mandates, New York and Colorado. Which state would you rather live in based on that mandate? We have a late word, too, of a third blue state following one of the other two. We'll get into that ahead. A tale of two blue states now. First, New York, where starting today, the state back under an indoor mask mandate. Workers and customers at all businesses in the state must now show proof of vaccination or wear a mask. Some business owners saying it could hurt sales during the holiday shopping season, but perhaps more importantly, it makes them, they say, the mask or vax police. One business owner telling the New York Post, you could tell a customer to wear a mask or give them one, but you can't force them to wear it. Meantime, in the other blue state, Colorado, Democratic Governor Jared Polis is calling the COVID emergency over. He said in a radio interview, at this point, if you haven't been vaccinated, it's really your own darn fault. In Colorado, no more statewide mask mandates. In New York, they're back. And we just got word late this afternoon, California is back as well, starting on Wednesday. So are Mo Kelly, host of the Mo Kelly Show, and Rick Green, former Texas state lawmaker. He now heads up the Patriot Academy. Mo, let's start with you. Which governor got it right?
I think they both can say they got it right, or you can include California and say they all got it right, because they're going to legislate with respect to their particular constituencies. Governor Polis in Colorado, he won his election in 2018 by 11 points, so he's more free to do as he sees fit relative to his constituency. We've talked about Governor Newsom in California. He won his recall bid, if you will, the effort against him by some 25 points or something, so he doesn't have to worry about re-election. So they're more free to do as they see fit. And New York is much more populated, a concentrated population, so they maybe have to be more stringent in nature. I'm not going to judge the governors against one another. They're going to do what they think is right for them.
Rick, I think I know, with you coming from Texas, where you stand on this, but 84% of the people hospitalized in Colorado, according to the governor, are unvaccinated. Which governor got it right?
Well, I got to take issue with one thing Mo said. I like Mo, but he said they have freedom to legislate. No, that's incredibly wrong. I mean, that's what we're missing in this whole thing. Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution guarantees every state to be a republic, not a dictatorship. There's something about accountability. There's something about a group coming together and having debate to make policy like this. Not one person making law for an entire state. in this case, for almost 2 years and dealing with some of the most personal decisions that individuals will make. So I would argue that all three of them got it wrong. And finally, the Colorado governor, even as a Democrat, is waking up and realizing that everything, let's be magnanimous here, let's be gracious, everything government has done with regard to COVID has not worked. Not one thing they've done with all of these restrictions and mandates has helped. That's why free states are actually doing not only as good, but better than the states where they're putting the mandates. That should tell us something. How many full stadiums do we have to see with a bunch of screaming college kids and not having massive outbreaks of death after that to finally realize these government interventions are not working? COVID is going to COVID, and the government can't stop it.
Mo, have we gotten to the point now where people who are going to get the shot will get it, and people who are going to wear a mask will get it as well? And as we heard from some of these New York businesses, nobody's really even enforcing this anyway.
Absolutely. In California, we probably will not have any enforcement, as local law enforcement has said they're not going to enforce it. But going back to what Rick said, we have a representative government. We have elected officials to make these decisions. We've entrusted to them to make them. And we're not going to have a statewide referendum on every single issue. That's why we have our elected leaders. And so they're not ruling by fiat. They are making decisions as information is made available. We may not agree with it, but that's why we have elections, where if we don't agree with it, then we can, kick out the bums, as they say. But we will. It's not about always getting it right. They're not going to get it right. I disagree that we've gotten it wrong every step of the way. We've got some things wrong, but we've also preserved some lives along the way.
Let's bring you back in, Rick, on the next issue that actually impacts both of your states, and that's Governor Newsom of California taking basically the Texas precedent on abortions and dealing with gun laws now, saying that if Texas can ban abortion and endanger lives, California can ban deadly weapons of war and save lives. Is this a statement, or is this going somewhere, Rick?
Well, there's a really important distinction with a difference on the legal theory here. What Newsom is doing, which tends to happen. I mean, I fought Andrew Cuomo on bad legal theory with guns 20 years ago when I was a legislator, when he wanted to blame the manufacturers for crime, which is ridiculous. In the same way here, what Newsom is allowing you to do is sue someone for simply owning a legal object. Now, if that was the legal theory with abortion, you would be outlawing surgical tools that would be used in other surgeries in a legal way, or to stop drunk driving. You would outlaw, or you would allow people to sue someone for simply owning a car. He's completely misapplying this legal theory. Once again, just trying to stop people from being able to defend themselves and defend their families.
Mo, I don't know that it's for owning it, but it allows citizens to sue anyone who manufactures, distributes, or sells an assault weapon or ghost gun parts in California. Do I have that right, or am I missing something?
You have it correct, and both those things are illegal. Assault weapons are illegal in California. Ghost guns are illegal in California. And it would allow private citizens to have legal standing to sue people who are the manufacturers or connected to those weapons, and then the victims who are connected to those actions of those manufacturers. So it's not just owning a gun. It's about specific types of guns, which in California are presently illegal.
This will be challenged, Mo, right?
Oh, it's going to be challenged, but it's an ongoing challenge, what we've had in California, as we've had ongoing challenges with abortion. And Governor Newsom, in a very flippant way, is saying, well, if you're going to try to outlaw abortion, you're going to use certain types of arguments with the SCOTUS to do it, then we're just going to do the same thing, but apply it to guns, where I, as Governor Newsom, am politically popular to do it in California.
Rick, does this go anywhere? It is California.
Yeah, I just want to point out that these are not illegal guns. We're talking about something that even the Ninth Circuit, the liberal Ninth Circuit, said these are popular guns. They're good for self-defense. They should not be illegal. So that is what he has talked about allowing you to sue people for, is simply having, for instance, an AR-15 or something like this. It is California. I mean, look, they've been able to have all kinds of restrictions on anybody's simple ability to defend themselves. They always go after the wrong thing. They go after the inanimate object instead of arming citizens, because in America, guns are used 5 times more often to stop crime than they are used to commit a crime. We should be arming citizens more, not making it harder for good law-abiding citizens to defend themselves.
Well, it's a long way off if it happens, but we will continue to follow it and see where it goes. Mo Kelly, Rick Green, always great to have you both. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Coming up, we are live in Kentucky, Illinois, and Arkansas as we continue to cover these weekend tornadoes that have just been devastating, and we'll have another update, including from first responders. That's next. And you may have heard of the United Cajun Navy. That's them. They're famous for helping hurricane relief efforts in the Gulf and the surrounding area as well. But they are live in the ground in Kentucky right now. We'll speak with one of them coming up too. Back now to the heartbreak in the heartland, where several states have been devastated by tornadoes and entire towns completely wiped out. Joining me now, NewsNation's Evan Lambert in Edwardsville, Illinois, about a half an hour northeast of St. Louis, where 6 people were killed when a tornado plowed through an Amazon facility. I just can't believe the video and the images we're seeing, Evan, of the damage right there behind you.
It is so hard to describe, Joe, and that's why we want to show it to you. Now, right behind us right now, what is especially eerie is that this building right here, this part of the warehouse, it looks completely untouched. But if you just look at the right of your screen where the building ends there, that's where the rest of the warehouse is supposed to be, where those lights are, where you probably hear some trucks moving about, some of the cleanup still continuing right now. That is where there is a giant hole in this building. Really, you get a better perspective of it if you take a look at the satellite imagery, the before and after. You can see this warehouse there fully intact before this tornado ripped through, and then you see that one whole side, the south side. It literally looks like someone took a plane and landed it right down the middle of that south side, destroying it nearly completely. Joe?
Evan, what can you tell us about the employees who were in there? How much of a warning did they get? Were there sirens? Is there a place for them to go? I can see, or imagine anyway, in a building that size, you might feel fairly safe. But man, looking at that satellite image is just unbelievable.
Yeah, Joe, so we know that this was around 8:30 on Friday night when the tornado came through, but we are told by Amazon officials and employees that there were multiple warnings. We understand it was not a lot of warning as far as the tornado warning, just really minutes that employees had to get to a safe place. And we have learned from Amazon officials a little bit more about their safety protocol. There's a designated area on that side that was untouched there that people are supposed to go to in times like this. Apparently, it doesn't have any windows. That is where about 45 people were. They all survived. The people that were killed and were injured, they were on that side that was obliterated. And there are a lot of questions about whether or not there should be more of those kinds of areas in a building like this. We know that OSHA is investigating the conditions here as well. Joe?
Drone video of the debris in the creek behind, and you can see there really wasn't anywhere to go, Evan. It looked like it's just a concrete pad that warehouse is built on. Just stunning pictures. Evan Lambert live for us tonight in Edwardsville, Illinois. Thanks, Evan. Want to shift now to NewsNation's Tom Negovan. He's live in Monette, Arkansas for us, where a nursing home was hit by a tornado. And Tom, it's always amazing when we get these tragedies to hear the stories of heroism and the people who stepped up and did all they could to try to save people like they did in this nursing home there.
You know, that's exactly right. We talk about heartbreak in the heartland, right, Joe? Well, this is heroism in the heartland, and it's very, very real here on the ground in Monette, Illinois, in Monette, Arkansas. Where we're standing is the sort of the epicenter of where the tornado did the most damage. 5 deaths here and 1 fatality. We'd like to pan around and show you a bit more, but utility crews have been working all day, every day since this happened. Lights are still out in this area. Very, very heavy damage here. So the only light is what we've actually brought with us. So the nursing home directly behind me was to celebrate its Christmas party today. Instead, they're recovering from this unspeakable tragedy and the death of one of their own, a 94-year-old Korean War veteran and COVID-19 survivor. Golden Hembry was his name. Would have turned 95 next March the 8th. Talked to his family about this, about the extreme heroism they witnessed because they drove through the storm to check on him and see how he was doing. And they saw, as neighbors here did, how much the workers, the staff there were willing to do to get frail, elderly, confused, very, very frightened and cold residents to safety. Absolute heroism. The rest of the residents doing very well, we're told. None of the injuries life-threatening, Joe, and they're all getting great care here in Arkansas tonight, and which is all we can possibly ask.
Another great turn of phrase.
When you go through the building and look at it, you know, you're just so...
I'm sorry, Tom. I think we might have stepped on the interview clip there. Do we have it again? Go ahead and wrap us up, Tom.
And when you go through the building and look at it, you know, you're just so thankful. You hate it that it was one, but you're so thankful that we only had one.
And that's Rick Sampson, the co-owner of the facility, talking about the death of one of his residents, a guy everybody knew, everybody loved, and they risked their lives to save him, Joe. Just a footnote here, and it's much more than that, but they used their bodies as human shields on Friday night, trying to protect residents from the wrath of the storm right at the height of it as they got them out of there.
Yeah, just as you said, heroism in the heartland. Well put. Tom Negovan, live for us tonight in Monette, Arkansas. Thank you. Amid the tragedy, recovery efforts are already underway, and among those providing aid, the United Cajun Navy, well known for the relief work they typically do in the South. Joining us now, Nina Phelps from the Cajun Navy in Mayfield, Kentucky. Nina, I want to know just first of all, what's happening there right now? What are you guys doing?
Right now, we're just kind of processing the situation. In the distance, the people are still doing cleanup even after dark. It's freezing. They're fighting the cold weather to even get this done. But as you can see behind me, it's not an easy task. As far as someone that does this for a living,
yeah.
I've never seen devastation to this magnitude in such a small town.
That's what I was going to ask you. I mean, we've talked with you folks down after hurricanes in Louisiana and other areas. I was wondering, when you pulled into that city and you saw a look at what we're seeing video of, what went through your mind?
I couldn't process it, to be 100% honest with you. This is my home state. I am from Kentucky. I was actually leaving Hurricane Ida to come home for holiday, and I drove through this storm to get home. And just getting in front of the storm was really hard because of the wind that was pushing me. And then when I pull into this small little town and I see that there's 200-mile-an-hour winds that come through it, and there's nothing left standing in 80% of the sections, it's hard to process where to start, how do you start, what do you do. The infrastructure has to get up, and that's the main part, is getting that infrastructure up for these people to get going.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Nina. Where do you start? Because right now it's still a search and rescue operation, correct? So are you guys going house to house looking for people?
We're doing our best efforts. To say it's so widespread, it is. I'm in Mayfield. It goes all the way to Bowling Green, which is a 2-hour difference. It isn't something where we can just walk house to house. We physically have to get volunteers, which is something that we're trying to get done, to go house to house and do wellness checks. But as of right now, it's if someone's calling in saying, hey, we need someone to go check on it, we're getting to that area and doing our best to get through that area.
We're seeing some of the people, the pictures of the people there hugging each other. I'm wondering, Nina, just sort of on a personal level, what it means to you to be able to go in there and help these folks. And I'm sure they have a message for you when they see you.
What it means to me is amazing. I've never got to do this in Kentucky with the United Cajun Navy. I'm beyond blessed to be here. Today, I witnessed Southern hospitality at its finest here in Kentucky. Every neighbor was helping each other pull through each other's rubbish. And I say rubbish because there's no structures left. Your home it's just what's blown around, and some of your neighbors' belongings are in your yard. To be a part of this, I can't even give you the sense of pride. I'm beyond blessed to be here. I'm beyond prideful to be here, and I can't wait to see the impact that me and my team actually do get to make. But what the neighbors are doing with each other, and the humanity that's coming along, the love and loyalty and stuff, that's going to do more than any volunteer team can do by itself.
Well, it's great to hear, and I know they have a long road ahead. But Nina Phelps from the Cajun Navy in Mayfield, Kentucky, I know I speak for everyone there and around the country when I say thank you for what you're doing there. Say hello to your crew and thank them as well.
Thank you, John.
Check out this video. NewsNation's Brian Enton witnessed a retail theft while he was out shopping this weekend. He recorded it and chased after the guy. Brian joins us after the break. Plus, more smash and grab robberies this weekend. Tens of thousands stolen in a flash. How big is this problem, and what do we do about it? We are taking a closer look at crime this week on the Donlon Report and NewsNation. Take a look at this. Quite a scene playing out in the parking garage of a Home Depot in Florida. Caught on camera by NewsNation's Brian Enton. While out shopping, he saw what he thought was a retail theft in progress, so he pulled out his phone and started recording. Brian Enton himself joins us now to tell us more about what happened. You can't even get a day off on your day off, Brian.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. You know, we're working on this organized retail theft series, smash and grab series. So it was sort of on the forefront of my mind the last couple of days. And I went to Home Depot yesterday with my mom to get a new microwave. And I was checking out, my mom was standing there, and the associates started yelling, there's a guy running out. So I went out to see what was going on and followed, and he had like a really big box, a Ryobi box, an electric saw, and he was running through the parking garage, and I followed him, and he was trying to take off and steal this saw. You're gonna see in the video there is a loss prevention worker that came out. He's the guy with the mask and the long hair. Take a look at what happened. It's in the back. Oh, he's in there, he's in there.
I told him to get that shit on my truck. He said, "Oh, you want me to get off with you?" I told him. I told him to get that truck. Hey, my man, I said to get that. You just took off the way. Don't be involved in that. Thank you, sir.
So you got it back?
Yeah.
Good job. So the good news was they got the saw back in that instance, but what's so interesting is these workers are just so used to this. They say it's pretty much happening constantly, and most of the time they do not get the merchandise back. Joe?
All right, and you got a new microwave for Mom. So great reporter, better son. Brian Enton, it's always good to see you. Take care. For more on what Brian saw firsthand and how holiday retailers are on alert as a result, Bill Cannon joins us now, retired NYPD Sergeant, host of the Police Off the Cuff podcast. So, Sergeant, we're seeing all this video, especially these high-end smash and grabs. The latest was in California. I don't know if you saw this. It was like $40,000 worth of shoes stolen. We read all the headlines. Let's start with just a simple question. How bad is it right now, in your opinion?
You know, this isn't a new problem. This happened in the 80s and in the 90s, but it's a significant problem now because unlike the 80s and 90s, right now they're not prosecuting for this. They're basically giving these criminals a free pass, and they know it, and that's why they're so brazen.
Well, we're actually, I guess, going to hear a little bit now from the White House Press Secretary, Jen Psaki, because she asked about just what you're talking about. So let's listen to that, and then I'll ask you after.
We have seen an increase in crime over the course of the pandemic. There are a range of reasons for that, and what our focus is on is what we can do to address it. We have also worked directly with police departments in areas where they are seeing the highest impact of the crime, the retail theft, which we have great concern about. That's what our focus is on currently, is action and doing what we can to make sure the funding is out there to the communities that need it the most.
So funding, Sergeant, and I guess enforcement is the issue. Is there enough enforcement, and is that why we're seeing more of this? Because we're definitely seeing criminals, as they do, look for the soft spots.
There is not enough enforcement, and the problem with the enforcement is that it's at the prosecutorial end. The district attorney's offices are not prosecuting these people. So they know they're going to get a free pass. If they get arrested, they know they're going to be out, and there's not any seriousness. There's no teeth in the law, let's put it that way. If it used to be over $1,000 was a felony, I think they've lowered that, and there's just no prosecutorial teeth in the law. And also, police departments need to set up for these groups. They need plainclothes officers that specifically set up for these smash and grab teams. And that's once they start locking them up and they start sending the message out there that they're not getting a free pass, it'll stop. Not totally stop, but they'll take a big bite out of it.
All right. I mean, that's one thing. And I guess we can, we've talked about these, I guess, progressive DAs who are not prosecuting as much as others would like them to. And what we're seeing as a result are some lower level crimes going down, misdemeanors and whatnot. Jail space not quite as full. But the other issue here, Sergeant, is the fact that a dozen cities nationwide have set homicide records here.
Yeah, well, that's all part of it. And I mean, I know Jen Psaki blames it on COVID, but I think that's ridiculous. I think it's the whole, it started with the defunding the police, and then it started with the war on police. And then as a result, cities, large cities, urban cities, homicides are going up, triple, like 30% in a lot of cities. And that has a lot to do with not supporting your police, not backing them up, not having enough police, defunding the police. All of those things are all instrumental in the crime rise we're seeing, specifically in murder.
Yeah. Well, to your point, resigning police officers have left hundreds of holes in a lot of cities in those police departments. Bill Cannon, retired NYPD homicide sergeant. Thanks for your time. Good to see you, sir.
It was a pleasure, Joe.
On Balance with Leland Vittert starts at the top of the hour. He joins us now on set. What do you have?
Hey, no, we're picking up exactly where you're leaving off on this issue of retail thefts. And so many of the retailers now are asking Congress for new laws to try and combat this. Some of the very same retailers are donating to the causes that have created this problem in the first place, like bail reform and others. Also talking about these same retailers that have no chase policies. So they're saying, like as we saw in Brian Enton's reporting, hey, don't chase any of these people because they don't want the liability, but at the same time complaining that nobody's doing enough.
Well, that's the problem, too, with these, because what can security guards do in a situation like that? You have one security guard, maybe, and you have 15 or 20 people with crowbars running through the store.
Excellent point. A lot of people who you talk to, or the experts in this, will tell you that if you had armed security at the front, it all depends on what store you're dealing with, but certainly at Home Depot and others where you would have a confrontation, it only has to happen a couple of times before these thieves stop doing this. For example, Louis Vuitton, there's a number of stores in Chicago and other cities now that have one in, one out policies, where they're actually checking people at the front door. That makes a big difference.
All right, top of the hour. It's On Balance. We'll see you then.
Yeah.
So how's this for the Person of the Year? A World War II vet turns 100. We have the pictures in tonight's American Snapshot and the actual winner of that Person of the Year ahead. Tonight, as search and rescue crews remain on the ground looking for survivors, one Facebook group is looking to return valuables, items, and even pets to their owners following this weekend's devastating tornadoes. The Facebook page called Quad State Tornado Found Items. It was created on Saturday and already has everything from pictures of pets to Christmas gifts, Social Security cards, marriage certificates, all kinds of family pictures as well. Again, the Facebook page is Quad State Tornado Found Items. They've already found some items as far as 100 miles away from where that item began. One way to donate is through Team Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund. And if you want to donate, you can scan the code on the side of your screen right now. You can also download our app, and you'll find the link to support the Red Cross right on the home screen. You can also go to our website, newsnationnow.com. Elon Musk may be Time's Person of the Year, but we thought maybe this guy should have been in the running as well. He's going to have to settle for being our American Snapshot, but that's not too bad, right? Eddie Durham is his name, World War II veteran. He's from Chicago, celebrated his 100th birthday over the weekend. Durham served in the U.S. Army Transportation Corps from 1943 to 45, and in addition to driving 2.5-ton trucks full of personnel and equipment, he went on to become tech corporal and a machine gunner while serving in Italy as well. Durham recalled one night while driving in a convoy with blackout conditions through the mountains of Italy. He remembers part of the convoy falling off the mountain cliff. Quote, "It seemed like their trucks just disappeared on the road." Married for 50 years, father of 5, many more grandchildren and great-grandchildren as well. A very happy birthday to Mr. Eddie Durham. We salute your service. Hope you have a great birthday and a great holiday season as well. That's our Snapshot. On Balance, next. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.